Is it recording? Oh, good. Hello there. My great-grandson has persuaded me to tell you something of my life, which he is recording and will then upload to the World Wide Web. I was under the impression that the World Wide Web was entirely composed of pornography, but Octavius informs me a small amount of more educational material is also available. As I have some minutes to spare before my welding class, I have agreed to share some of my experiences. I was born in 1915, which, as those of you not educated in the comprehensive system will know, means that I am currently 97 years old. I was brought up in Hampshire, which my father happened to own at the time. It was, I suppose, a rather conventional childhood. A deeply lesbian boarding school in Yorkshire, followed by one of the better finishing schools in what is now Tajikistan. Dreadfully hilly back then. I don't know if they have done anything about it since, but I do remember the bracing walks and the jolly public stonings. Bertie, my first husband, often said I should have bowled for England, such was the speed and accuracy of my overarm spin. I returned to England in 1932, as Mamma insisted on my coming out as soon as possible that season. One rather suspects she was trying to divert attention, for my brother Giles had also recently come out, after having been caught coming out of one of the stable boys. After my coming-out ball, I dashed across to Berlin to see my dear friend Unity Mitford, or Bobo, as we rather inexplicably used to call her. She had gone out there because she had a dreadful crush on Mr. Adolf Hitler and was desperate to meet him. Well, he was rather charming in a vile sort of a way. Unity was quite smitten, of course, but then she always did go doolally where men were concerned. She was Mushugana Verschmeckel, as my Jewish friends would say, had they not been shipped off to concentration camps. When I decided to return to England, Unity was terribly disappointed. She could not understand why I wanted to leave, but I could tell which way the wind was blowing. As I said to her at the time, "Bobo, dearest, we can't all be impregnated by fascist dictators," though Mr. Benito Mussolini had been sending me increasingly explicit telegrams. Now, I met Bertie, my first husband, on that journey back from Berlin to Paris. I went by overnight train, and Bertie certainly went like a train. I recall sitting in a cafe in Montmartre, happily bruised from the previous night's exertions. We were drinking pastis, or Nesquik, I forget which, when Bertie turned to me and said, "Persephone, old girl, we shall have to get married." So as soon as we returned to England, we set about wedding plans. Father was terribly traditional in these matters, and insisted upon a dowry, so we got the city of Newcastle upon Tyne and a camel farm in Libya. Arthur, my youngest son, runs it now. He sends a superb parcel of dates and cannabis every Christmas, but you know how it is with dates. They just sit on the sideboard unopened long into the new year. Now, not long after we were married, Bertie got the call up for the RAF, and I was left alone to look after Heavenham Hall. Fortunately, we had a very efficient estate manager. Of course, he was a terrific bestialist, but we mainly grew wheat, so we were spared the worst of it. Trotsky, my German shepherd, often had a limp, but one tried not to make a point of these things. So there I was, a young bride, all alone, trying to look after 15,000 acres of Herefordshire. It was a lonely life, but one simply endured it. Happily, there was a gypsy encampment nearby, and I was constantly being invited to take part in bare-knuckle boxing matches, which were a hoot. The gypsies entertained me royally afterwards, especially if I won, as was so often the case. Of course, one had to be much more careful then, contraception not being what it is now. Fortunately, one's sphincter is much more forgiving when one is young. Well, I really must dash now. I am sure it has been a terrific pleasure for you to listen to me.